What's going on, guys? This is Tech Habit Weekly, episode 19. It's February 27th, 2014, and as always, we have some awesome tech stories for you. So joining me is Dontae, Casey Nightmare Harris. I'm sure you all know him and love him by now, and if not, then I don't know what the heck you're doing. Also, we have a special guest this weekend. We have a chicken. So we do have some nice, awesome tech stories for you, and of course, we have a little bit of a focus on Apple. They've been actually really busy lately with all these different software releases, so we'll be talking to you guys through that. We have a Galaxy S5 that was announced not too long ago. And so, without telling you guys too much more about it, Dontae, just go ahead and kick us off with the first story we have, which is in regards to OS 10.9.2.
Yes, Bob. OS X 10.9.2 has just been pushed out to everyone for download. So basically, you can go in, and if you're on 10.9.1, you can check in your software updates, hit the update button, and get into the App Store, and should be able to update to the new version. And with this particular release, they have fixes with SSL, FaceTime audio, contact blocking, and mail fixes. Me personally, this update has definitely helped me out in between the 10.9.1 to 10.9.2 because I've had some compatibility issues. One thing, and I think Bob, you had this problem too, was if I were to go make a screenshot or just open up a small picture file or something using the quick viewer, just you hit like if you highlight it, hit the space bar, and it pops up really quickly. I was having problems with it. It would just spin and spin and spin.
Quick look wasn't so quick.
Yeah. So it would crash, and that was a problem. But now since then, that has been fixed. The compatibility in Safari, some of the things I was having in Safari that were kind of having some issues weren't working. Now they're working. One, I use this program called Here to check my audio levels. I like to turn them on and down and see all my audio channels that are on at the same time and be able to control them at any given time without having to go to hit the option, hold down the option key, and slide my volume up and down and things like that. That was having problems. Now it's fixed. So to me, this is a good update, especially for things that weren't working very well and bug issues and compatibility issues. What do you think, Bob?
It's been an awesome update for me. Like you said, the quick look thing was probably the biggest annoyance that I had. Like, once you use quick look and then you don't have it or it doesn't work as well as it should, you really notice, you realize how much that you actually do use it. And I use it all the time. I mean, for my online work or just, showing my family how to do stuff, I take screenshots every single day. And eventually they just kind of accumulate on my desktop. And I'm like, all right, this is crazy. I need to get rid of all this stuff. So I'm quick looking. I'm like, okay, what is this? Can I delete it? Spacebar, I don't need that. Command delete, quick look, command. So I always go through stuff on my desktop and try to get rid of it. And quick look just was not quick anymore. It was fine on, I think it was 10.8.5, I think was the last version of Matline I used. Perfectly fine. And as soon as I updated the Mavericks, quick look an image, and 30 seconds later, it'd be like, oh, an error occurred. It's like, thanks. It's actually quicker for me to double click it and open it up with the app, which is exactly what it was designed to make you not have to do.
Right.
So it was annoying, and so that has been fixed. I took a bunch of screenshots yesterday. I was just going through them like butter. It was really good. The SSL bug is something that I honestly didn't even really know about. I didn't pay that much attention to it at all until I was watching Twit and they went over exactly what happened. And it was just a line in the source code that it would go to fail, and that's actually a website now. Is you can actually go to gotofail.com. And if you're running 10.9.1, you'll get an error on that page. It'll tell you that something's wrong. But then on 10.9.2, it'll say that you're safe, which lets us know that Apple did successfully patch that. So that just makes sure that the certificates are verified, and it ends up being a lot more secure of an experience. So that's a pretty big deal. There's been some problems on real Macs with audio just dropping out. I think a lot of problems on especially the Retina MacBooks. Myself personally, I've yet to experience that, but audio would just not work, or it would cut out of YouTube videos and things. So on legitimate Macs, that has been sorted out. So, but the biggest thing, aside from the quick look fix, I think, is the FaceTime audio, because Dontae, I know you agree with me on this, and Terrell does as well. The FaceTime audio on my iPhone here is absolutely awesome. It blows away that of a traditional phone call. And so now to have that added convenience of people being able to call me from their phones on my computer, that is really cool. And I mean, it's something that's been done before, but to have it native like that from Apple is really nice. Dontae, do you think you'll be using FaceTime audio on your computer?
Definitely. I will definitely be using FaceTime audio. And number one, excuse me, one of the biggest issues that I like with FaceTime audio is how crisp and clear the audio sounds that when it's actually going through the voice over IP, basically the internet, to get to us, and it works very well. And being able to have some of the new features in 10.9.2 like call waiting and blocking is going to be great, because now it honestly feels like I have a smartphone on my desktop to be able to do this. Because a lot of times, I don't know if you've been in a situation like this, but I have. I live in a what's called a split level a place, and when you go upstairs, a lot of time I leave my phone up there not thinking about it, and then I'll come down here, and it would be nice to get my phone calls through FaceTime audio if someone had tried to call me the regular way at first, or being able to text with iMessage. I mean, it's to the point where I don't need my phone half the time to just communicate with other people. So I think it's really good, and I definitely be using this thing. So if you see that FaceTime audio call from me, answer it.
You better answer my calls. Yeah, but in terms of the Hackintosh world, I did do an update on this, my quick Hackintosh tip series. I installed the update on two machines, both my 3.5-year-old beast down here, my socket 1366 Core i7 build, also on a Core i3 Haswell build, and both systems worked flawlessly. I have heard of people saying that 10.9.2 just utterly ruined their Hackintosh systems, even some people saying on legitimate Macs that have had some problems with it. But me personally, there's absolutely nothing that I don't like about this update. And if you do want to know how to install it on your Hackintosh, or any experiences, or like the experience that I had, feel free to click the video in the description down. There's a link to it. That's my quick Hackintosh tip on that. And overall, like I said, I've been very pleased with it. I definitely give the double thumbs up on going ahead and updating. And so, Dante, have you had any issues with 10.9.2? Is there something that's still not fixed or anything?
Nothing that I can visibly see offhand, but that doesn't mean that there isn't any bugs. Of course, that's why there's updates for everything. And one thing I have noticed, and I don't know if this was even part of the fix, but it seems to me that iTunes for me is opening a lot faster than it has before. I've got a lot of music inside my iTunes library, and I was figuring pretty much that was the reason that it was so slow. But with the same library and everything, it opened a lot faster today. And after having the update installed, and I don't know if that was, like I said, I don't know if it was part of it, but I definitely know that the speed has increased on that. So definitely, I don't have any problems right now. We'll definitely keep you guys updated if there are some problems do arrive, and some of the people who have been having problems on legit Macs and Hackintoshes and things like that, to post them down in the comments, and we'll figure out and try to compare some of the things and maybe see what Apple's going to do about those problems, and some certain things to do about it on the Hackintosh end. And maybe Bob will have some new quick Hackintosh tips for those fixes as well.
Yeah, and from going around the internet, one thing that's been a problem ever since Mavericks came out, 10.9.0, was with Mail and Gmail. For some reason, people that have Gmail accounts, they add it in and they just don't receive updates to their mail, which is a pretty big problem. Of course, you could just use the web app and stuff, but people that want to use Apple's dedicated mail app like I do, I personally don't use my Gmail account. I just have everything from my Gmail forwarded to my Me account, which I use in Apple's Mail, and that works beautifully fine. So, but people are saying that the Gmail problem, even though Apple in the changelog addresses that mail issues have been fixed, people are saying that the Gmail is still a problem. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case, but I've definitely seen on Twitter people still complaining that it doesn't work. So be sure to post your experiences in the comments right down there. And we can both agree that the OS 10 10.9.2 update is very good. If you do have any problems with it, be sure to let us know. So moving on here, Apple, like I said in the intro, has been pretty busy here. iOS 7.0.6 has been released, as well as 6.1.6. Dante, are these any major updates, or is there anything that this really brings to the table, or are these mostly just kind of bug fix updates?
Basically, these are just mostly bug fixes. This isn't one of those updates that's going to add any new feature or something that your previous OS didn't have or anything like that. And honestly, myself, I haven't downloaded it because my phone is still jailbroken right now, and I've got some content that I'm going to be putting out about that on my YouTube channel. We'll just stay tuned for that as well. But it says here that some of the bug fixes one was the SSL fix like it was in 10.9.2, and Apple says that iOS 7.0.6 is a security update that provides a fix for the connection verification, and also for the Apple TV version 6.0.2, and for iOS 6.1.6, or for older devices that offer the same fix. These updates should be available to the all supported iPhones, iPads, iPods, and Apple TVs as an over-the-air update, which I did just receive my Apple TV's update, and it fixed the problem that I actually was having with Netflix. I don't know what was going on, but the Netflix app, I would play like a season of, say, The Walking Dead or something, and then in the middle of the episode, it would say
an
error has occurred, and I'm like,
Yep,
okay,
you're not alone.
then you restart. Works just fine, and then it would happen again. So I got to the point where I would come downstairs and get on my Mac Pro and just watch it on there, since I've got 1080p screens and 1080p TV upstairs. I'm like, well, I'll watch it on here, and I had no problem. So definitely, it was a problem with the Apple TV and a bug within the actual OS. But now that that's fixed, I haven't had a problem since, and I've been watching it. Haven't had any problems. Have you had any problems like that, Bob?
I had that exact same issue with Netflix. I use Netflix every single day as I'm going to bed, or as I'm maybe doing some homework. I'll just go in my bedroom and be on my laptop and just have something going in the background. And I'd be in the middle of like 24, because I'm pumped. In May, the new season of 24 is coming out, so I'm getting all caught up. So I'd be in the middle of watching it, and that same exact thing, an error occurred, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'll go back, and then it won't even play again. So then I have to I tried unplugging the thing, and usually that works for a while, but I'll eventually get it again. Another issue that I was having is one day it just would not connect to my Wi-Fi at all. It was saying that it was connected, but on the home screen nothing was showing up. I couldn't launch Netflix or anything. All I had was like settings, and so I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So I haven't had that since, but I have yet to update my Apple TV. So actually, I'll probably do that tonight, and I'll see if it does fix that Netflix bug. But in terms of iOS, as you may or may not have seen, I'm not sure if the camera was on it, but I still have yet to install the update. It is available to me, but I just haven't had the time or the ambition to click that button. But I really haven't been having too many issues with iOS 7.0.5 that I'm on now. Actually, I think it's 7.0.4. It's one of the two. I don't know anymore. But I will probably install this stuff tonight just to get myself updated. But it's like Dante said, it's nothing that you have to run out. There's nothing that's groundbreaking that you just absolutely have to use and have to be up to date for. So be sure to let us know what you think about these updates in the comments below. If you have an Apple TV, were you having these problems? If you have an iPhone, are you having issues that you really hope this addresses? And with 7.1 right around the corner, I'm sure that this isn't a huge update, but it's just security fixes, bugs fixes, stuff like that. So moving on to our next story, we're actually going to be talking about the Galaxy S5, and it was announced at MWC, which is Mobile World Conference. Dante, go ahead and tell us about Samsung's latest creation.
Well, basically, Samsung's much anticipated Samsung Galaxy S5 is going to be launching here soon, and basically, some of the things that are going to be under the hood, it says that we have a chance to check it out a bit early and take it out for a while, and we're already confident that this is the best Galaxy device yet. In fact, it's so compelling that we think that Samsung is going to attract more fans than ever this time around. Now, with this Samsung Galaxy S5, it actually offers a brilliant 5.1 inch display screen with a 1080p resolution, 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gig or 32 gigs of storage expandability with a micro SD card. It sports a 16 megapixel rear-facing camera, and IR blaster, and more. It says the device is also compatible with IP67 water resistant, which means it can withstand being submerged in water up to 1 meter for up to 30 minutes, which is very good with a smartphone, because people are always dropping their phone in water, and even just a little bit of water can completely damage your phone. So I think that's a very good move by Samsung. And also, it says that this doesn't mean that you can go jumping in the pool with it, but it also means that the phone should resist the water if you accidentally get pushed in. Now,
which is neat.
Yeah, that is neat, because what a lot of different companies, let's just say Apple, for instance, they don't cover water damage as far as the Apple Care is concerned. All they will do is basically, if you have Apple Care, they'll probably offer you a new device at a discounted price, but not anything that's just going to say, hey, we'll replace it because it got wet. So that's really huge. 16 megapixel camera, the guys got to realize that, higher megapixels don't make exactly better pictures. It's the pixel density and the sensors that are inside the camera. So I'm not really too keen on about, it's 16 megapixels, that's ridiculous. Not yet. I have to actually see this in real world in my hands and take a picture for myself to see how great those pictures are. And but it looks really good. I mean, they even say that under the hood you'll find an 802.11 AC Wi-Fi with 2 times MIMO, Cat4 LTE, and Samsung's custom download booster technology for the quickest downloads, taking advantage of the LTE and Wi-Fi at the same time, which is actually really, really cool. So, as we know, LTE speeds are actually faster than most people's at-home Wi-Fi speeds, and I know it is for myself. And that'll be awesome to integrate the two, and plus having a new technology of the 802.11c AC technology in the phone to recognize those routers that can actually pump those out. I don't know how many routers can really do that. I know the Airport Extreme and things can do that from Apple, but I'm not sure about any other manufacturers as of yet that can support 802.11 AC. But it as I see everything here, I mean, it seems like it's really, really good. I mean, they're just talking about more features with the camera and things like that, and talking about the speed of, feels really fluid in the TouchWiz UI. I'm not a big fan of TouchWiz, honestly.
No one is.
Yeah, and I've used Android's first Galaxy S, and I know people are going to probably say, well, that was back then, but I'm just not a fan of the architecture of the UI, and it didn't really intrigue me. But I know some people that love it. They have Samsung Galaxy S4s, and they love it absolutely. And there's a lot of cool features here, and it definitely looks slick. But the problem I'm having is it doesn't look too different from all the other Galaxy S phones that I've seen. And I feel like at a certain point when you've got so many devices, underway, that it should start to look a little different to differentiate in between a Samsung Galaxy S3, 4, and 5. And yeah, some of the curves and some things look like it's changed just a tad bit, but not enough to where you could really tell, do you have the 4, 5, or the 3 or something like that. But usually with Apple phones, you can really tell the difference in between, like the iPhone 3 to the 4 to the 5. They're all different. The only thing that you'll come in between is in the in-betweens. Of course, the 5 and the 5S, they look the same. Of course, the 4 and the 4S look the same. But to me, when you go up that higher, like another bracket, and not trying to do a model that's in between, it should probably look a little different. Bob, do you feel like this is going to be a groundbreaking phone that's going to definitely make a dent in between the smartphone market, or what?
It's definitely going to get purchased. I can tell you that right now. This is kind of like they're catching on to, I'll say, Apple's strategy at least a little bit, in that they didn't make the phone look any different because they don't need to make the phone look any different because it's going to sell anyway. So why waste engineering hours trying to make something look dramatically different when it's going to sell, when they could just re-engineer the inside instead of both the inside and the outside. But I do have to say though that this is definitely Samsung's traditional thing. They included some crazy features like a heart rate monitor on the back of the phone. Now, I don't really understand why. I can understand it's something cool that you might want to show your friends once, but I feel that it could be something that maybe like a plug-in. I mean, it does have a USB port on it. This is something that people are going to use one time, like, oh, that's neat. All right, what else is there? And they're never going to use it again. That's just typical Samsung. It's just how they are, all these different little gimmicky features. The back, people are saying that from the videos I've seen, they're saying it looks nice. That it feels nice, but it doesn't necessarily look nice. People are comparing like the brownish or like the goldish model. People are saying that it looks exactly like a Band-Aid on the back of it, and so I've seen some funny pictures. But another thing that they added to the Galaxy S5 is a fingerprint reader, which is we have to admit Apple had that first. I mean, and it's right in I guess the Galaxy's home button, if that's what it's actually called. I really don't know. But in this case, what they do it's more of a swipe. It's not just you place it on there, let it read it, and go off. It's actually a swipe. And from what I've seen, it works pretty good. The phone just came out. I've only seen a handful of hands-on videos, but it does seem to work just fine. And so we'll have to see. But something that I'm not really sure about is how secure that's going to be, because as far as I'm concerned, as far as I've read, they've actually released an API for this, for the thumbprint reader, which it sounds cool. It could definitely open up the doors to a lot of things, but I really don't trust that security. I mean, Apple really has their security for the touch sensor down pat. I was reading an article on iMore that if you take the thumbprint sensor out of one 5S and put it in another, it won't work. It won't even show up in the settings panel at all. That specific sensor is tied to that specific ID of that phone from its hardware lock. So they really make sure that that information is secure, that Apple doesn't even know what it is, that it's secured right in the processor. I mean, it's very secure, whereas on the Android, I don't know how much I would trust that. I mean, having the API out there, having Android be based on a more open operating system, I don't know if I would trust people, if I want to use my friend's phone and have that thing try to read my thumbprint. For all I know, someone could install some app on there that's reading that stuff in the background and storing it somewhere that I don't want it to be stored.
Yeah.
One huge benefit of Apple stuff is definitely a lot more secure. Dante, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think there's any other, features that are gimmicky, or what do you think about the thumbprint reader?
Oh, believe
anything?
me, gimmicky. We can go all day with. I'm sure there's some sort of pinky toe unlock recognition, eyebrow recognition, recognition unlock. And not just to take a stab at Samsung, but like you said, the heartbeat monitor. I'm not quite too sure what they want to do. Of course, they're going to try to gear this towards runners and fitness experts and things like that. But how many people are going to be running with their phone in their hand
and checking?
Exactly. So it makes sense to have it as like an external thing. Like the Galaxy Gear Watch actually has a heartbeat monitor in it, and then that runners and fitness experts actually use this to monitor their heart rate while they run to try to keep that up. I know you've probably seen different joggers and things maybe sitting at a red light and just waiting and running to keep their heartbeat up. It'd be nice to just check and see what your heartbeat is, through your Galaxy S device. Now, but going forward and past that, I'm not too sure how many other features are going to be used with that, though, because to me, if you come out with a feature like that, it needs to have more uses to me. Like when Apple came out with Siri, they wanted that to be the ultimate voice assistant, and it's gotten considerably better and better. Now, personally, I don't use it very much. I only use it maybe if I'm in the car or something, I've got my Apple headphones on and I'm jamming out to some tunes. Sometimes I'll just grab it, hit the thing, and tell it to make me a reminder to do something, and just keep driving instead of having to look at the phone and watch what it's doing, things like that. But I have used it quite a few times. Something like this, I don't think it appeals to everyone. If everyone's not a fitness expert, you're not going to be using that feature. So gimmicky software, we've thrown this term around a lot on Tech Habit Weekly, and I think that's one of those things because you can't appeal to just one particular audience. You need to kind of take that and appeal it to everybody. Even if it's not, if you're just being a runner, I think that heartbeat monitor or something should converse and come together with something else also that's not geared towards a runner fitness. Like I said, like an emergency device or something. I don't know, but maybe we'll see what happens later. Maybe Samsung does have something like this planned later, and we'll definitely keep an eye on it and see what happens as the story develops.
Yeah, for now, it looks like that the heart rate monitor can only be used with like one specific application that's meant to tell you what your heartbeat is, like what your heart rate is. And that's it. There's really no other use for it. Whereas what you said, like with Siri's not a hardware thing on the phone. You push the home button, which the home button's there already, and if you don't want to use it, you never have to. It's very much like Launchpad on Mac OS 10.
You can actually disable it.
It's there. Yeah, you could always disable it, or if you just don't want to use it, you don't have to, and it's not in your way at all. But this is something that they actually put on the back of the phone. It's like a little piece of hardware on the. It's like right next to the camera flash, and so I just don't feel that it should be made part of the actual physical phone. If not all that many people are going to use it. Which is why I think it should definitely just be some kind of like an add-on device. Maybe that even comes with the phone. I don't know. Or maybe something you could buy for cheap. The integration with the Gear, I think, is enough. I don't know why they had to go and put like a hardware scanner on here. It's just something that gets headlines, something that turns heads. And that's something that Samsung is just always excelled at. So you'll never see something like that on the iPhone. There are plenty of stories that Apple is looking to get into the fitness market, but they're not going to put a sensor like that on the back of their phone. They're just not. When you're never going to... The day that a story comes out where it's like Apple, on the iPhone 6S, they put a heart rate monitor on the Apple logo. It's never going to happen. And the day it does, I'll owe everyone that watches this $16,000. Like it'll just never happen. So what do you guys think?
Postmark this date and time, and that Bob CPU Kids Roach will write you a check for $16,000. There goes my new Mac Pro, man. I'm going to get that.
fully spec'd out with still enough for like a down deposit on a car.
G-Raid. Oh, anyway. See, I'm starting to geek out. All right.
I know. I mean, don't get your hopes up. I mean, you can, but you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But regardless, what do you guys think of the Galaxy S5? If you're a huge Samsung guy, do you see yourself getting this phone, even if you just signed a contract with the Galaxy S4 not long ago? Would you, pay the early termination to maybe go to a different carrier to get this phone or anything like that? Be sure to let us know down below, right in the comments of what you think about this phone. Moving on to our next story here, we're going to talk a little bit about the future of MacBooks and maybe a reason as to why Apple hasn't included a touchscreen in them. Dontae, give us a little background about this story.
Well, basically, so far Apple's been pretty reluctant to put a touch-based panel into the MacBook computers and instead relies heavily on the multi-touch trackpad, which I love, by the way, that supports gesture controls and different functions. But we need to ask the question basically, but what if we were able to interact with the computer's chassis and execute different commands with it? Now, certain commands like launching an app, controlling your media and whatnot, and what if there was an area where your keyboard rests was a blank space where until you moved close enough to it that at which point the keyboard could be basically like magically appear, almost like a laser keyboard that people said that was coming out with the iPhone 4S years ago, something like that. I think that would actually be pretty cool. But here's the thing. Now, this is coming from Apple Insider. It says the housing has an I/O device that describes using the entire area of the computer's body as an area that can accept input controls through sensors, and the one or more sensors may be configured to sense input such as through a touch via the wall of the housing or something like that through some of the Apple patents that they've been acquiring. Now, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of any sort of touch laptop or anything. Matter of fact, a friend of mine, he came over this week with a brand new Asus laptop, Windows 8 laptop that he had downgraded to put Windows 7 back on. And no, I'm sorry. That was a different build. I'm sorry. He did keep the Windows 8 on there, but I was doing something to it and wanted to wipe a smudge off his screen, and it's like swiped the screen. I was like, what the? He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that thing's a touch. My thing is, something that big, I don't see myself doing this to. Yeah. I just don't. I mean, it works perfectly with a phone or a tablet, but something, and plus that was a 17-inch laptop, by the way. So, something that big and being able to use the touch features, I personally don't see any uses for it, but I could see people that maybe do a lot of presentations and things like that, maybe just want to quickly get to it instead of having to look down on the keyboard and type or move their mouse or something like that. I can see that, but there's also remotes and different apps and things like that for those situations as well. Honestly, I just don't think that I don't think this will go over very well. I think if Apple is going to do this, it's basically just to keep up with the Joneses with everyone else so they don't get stuck into a market in a certain category that have been told, hey, you guys don't innovate, you don't do this, your laptop don't even have any touch features or anything in it. And maybe that's the reason why they're going to be doing this. Now, it's just not a 100% article that says that this is exactly what Apple's going to do, but it's saying that they have been buying patents and doing different things and to try to put some of the elements into the keyboard to make it visibly by using like a proximity sensor and have a picture of the object, or using hand gestures or something that could use maybe with the eyesight camera and things like that. That would be nice, but an actual touchscreen, I'm not a big fan of it. What do you think?
It could lead to new ways to interact. I mean, if you're just thinking that you're on a MacBook and maybe you want to like sleep the computer or something, they don't have like kind of like a capacitive sort of a button on there that you can kind of just interact with, or maybe like instead of on the MacBook having like a where you can actually distinctly tell a rectangle for the trackpad, maybe the whole entire front will become a trackpad. So like stuff like that. It's definitely a weird concept. I'm kind of with you. I mean, I've never really been a fan of a laptop having touch. There's a few circumstances that I could see it coming in handy. Like when in class, I have my iPad propped up on the smart cover, so it's kind of like a laptop with the Apple keyboard in front of it to take notes, and it's cool because I can take notes because my handwriting is chicken scratch. It's actually very bad. I type a lot faster than I write, and it's a lot neater. So when there's like definitions on PowerPoint slides and stuff, I'm on my actual physical keyboard taking notes on the iPad. But then as soon as maybe the teacher will draw some graphs and stuff, then I can take my iPad, put it down, and then have the stylus and write notes that way. So there are a very few scenarios in which it is good to have one device that has both touch and physical keyboard capabilities, but I don't think I'd buy a $2,000 machine for that. I really don't think that if this came out, I would buy it. And right now, it definitely looks very weird, definitely very not Apple, because as you said, this could be a move that maybe Apple is trying to, as you said, keep up with the Joneses, but Apple's never really been a company to do that. They kind of don't really care what the competition's doing, and they just kind of make their own path and do their own thing and say, well, they're just them. We're going to tell you what you want, and so here it is. And so this is definitely weird. The fact that they have gotten patents for this might just be, a way to get news stories, news articles, people talking about something like this, maybe to try to gauge how, the public would see something like this. But Apple has a way of taking things that through patents we're really not sure of, but then when the final product comes out and they're actually announcing it, we're like, okay, so they implemented it that way. That might actually kind of work, and then you get your hands on, then you make that final determination if you like it or not. Me personally, I'm definitely with you, Dante. I'm really not sure if I'd like this. I'm not sure if I would upgrade from my 2010 MacBook to something like this. I really don't know. But if this does indeed come out the way that we think it will, how much do you think they could get away charging for this? Maybe for like a Core i5 and a 15-inch display.
Jeez, Core i5 15-inch display. Honestly,
with all the touch
stuff, I'm looking at more about $12.99 retail price, and the reason why is because usually when you have a 15-inch laptop, usually you want to go into like the higher, like Core i7s and things like that, especially nowadays with the implication of the Retina MacBooks and things like that. But here's another thing. I just had a thought on getting these patents. Maybe they know that something's on the horizon about this type of technology, and maybe they just want to snatch the patents up first. That way, if someone does something, it's infringing on what they have already bought, which would be smart, honestly, because technology is changing every day. We've got different people with different ideas and, things that are coming into Apple and Samsung and Google and different places. And once all this stuff gets rolled out, a year from now, we might say, well, that was the greatest thing they ever did, because we don't know how they're going to implement this right now just by looking at it on paper. And once it comes out, it may be great. We may get to a point where you actually open up a laptop and there's no physical keys or trackpad, and then you just have just your screen, and then once you put your fingers down, maybe the keyboard comes at almost like a virtual keyboard, and you can just type a lot better that way and be able to use a trackpad, like you were saying, anywhere. Like maybe the whole base can be a trackpad, maybe if you're just using one finger or one hand or something. But if you're going to type, and once it recognizes you, maybe you have two palms or wrists or something on it, maybe that's when the virtual keyboard or something will come up. So you never know with technology. I mean, I didn't think that we'd have anything such as a solid state drive, 10 years ago. And, now look at us. And then, of course, with video quality and TVs and specs and consoles and rendering and graphics. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on the tech world, hardware wise and software wise. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this and see what Apple does with this, and see what other companies are going to do now that they know this. Because someone always wants to jump the gun first. Someone always wants to get that first sale of that. So we'll definitely see what happens with that as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, and the only other really use I could see for having like a touch chassis would be like, say for example, you copy and paste a whole lot. Instead of every time you want to do that, you're having to hit Command C, Command V, Command X for cut, things like that. Maybe you can assign like a swipe on the right side to just like kind of emulate keyboard shortcuts. So maybe with a swipe up, I'll copy, and with a swipe down, I'll paste. So I can highlight something, copy it, and then paste down or swipe down to paste it, things like that. Other than that, I really don't see much of a use for it. I think they'd be better. It would be better if they put their engineering time into something that I think would be a little bit more useful. But like you said, maybe they just want to snatch up the patents. I mean, we still have yet to see really any true hardcore evidence of an iWatch, yet we know that Apple bought all those patents for it. So it's really hard to say whether this will actually come to market or not, if we'll ever see anything like this. But if we do, it's going to take a pretty interesting and pretty in-depth and pretty awesome keynote for me to convince me that it's something that, okay, I could actually see myself using that. So what do you guys think? If you would actually use something like this, or maybe tell us how you think it should be implemented, things that it could be used for, or whatever it is, be sure to let us know down below in the comments. So now what we're going to do, go on to our next story here, go into like fourth gear, some gear. We're going to talk about Facebook and the fact that they bought WhatsApp for an astonishing $19 billion, billion with a B, not an M for million. Dante, what the heck is Facebook going to do with something like WhatsApp?
Honestly, I think they're trying to fix their messaging app because I don't know if anyone, I know you're not a big Facebook user, but
No.
I'm not a big Facebook user, but I do have a Facebook account, and I really don't message a lot of people. But when I do, I understand that the messenger built-in is terrible. I'd rather use text edit or command line or something to be able to, get my messages to people. And honestly, with this acquisition of Facebook buying the WhatsApp popular messaging app for 16 billion, which isn't chump change, by the way. Hopefully they do fix some of those problems. It says here that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said of the deal that the services that reach that milestone are incredibly valuable. And I've known Jan for a long time. This person that we got integrated with the WhatsApp, and says for a long time, and I'm excited to partner with him and to his team and make the world more open and more connected. And that's the thing I've been noticing lately, that Facebook is really trying to implement on the whole IT and user experience side. You can't just have these IT companies and these developers just throwing stuff together and say, hey, it's Facebook. I mean, I remember they had like a Facebook phone and whatnot, and it did horribly, just because there was a Facebook button and you can go and post your status and things like that. That was a huge gimmick, but they're just trying to tie up some of the loose ends, because you have to realize after a certain time, things are done. I mean, everyone knows what happened to MySpace and those different social networking things that have come up and have failed or did great, and then now they fizzled out. I think Facebook is trying to do more and more to keep some longevity as a company and as a means for a social media outlet for people to actually still use, and that's still relevant. And honestly, with this, if they do it right and integrate this into their Facebook messaging app, I think it would actually work really, really great. And hopefully we'll see what happens. But what do you think happens with as far as acquiring this company and what's going to happen with Facebook?
I think Facebook's trying to go for something like FaceTime audio that Apple does. I mean, they released a while ago. I'm sure some of you might not even remember this, but like a whole Facebook phone, which ultimately didn't do very well. But I mean, they might have a revision 2.0 or something around the corner for that hardware, and in doing so, they might say, okay, well now Facebook, you don't even have to on this phone. You don't really need to worry about minutes or anything, because now we have WhatsApp, we have our own phone, we have our own calling, our own voice calling app. So now you can message and voice call people, right? All done through Facebook. And so I could see him doing something like that because I love my FaceTime audio as it is here. And so I'm sure what Facebook is thinking is that, well, there's no FaceTime audio on PCs or anything. So everyone, I'm not going to say everyone because I sure as heck don't. I really don't like Facebook. But most people, I'll say the common, the typical population, typically has a Facebook tab open at all times on their computer. And with doing that, that basically means that it's kind of like how Facebook has now, where you always have like the messages at the bottom of the window. If you have some kind of, an audio, a way to call someone through audio always open, then, that really makes communication through voice a lot easier too. And it can be done cross-platform on both OS 10 and Windows. And like I'm saying, maybe they plan to release a revision 2.0 of the Facebook phone and say, okay, well now you get to have your own voice app on here too. And so I think that's what the real end game is. WhatsApp is good for messaging and everything, but I think if they add some voice functionality to it, then they could actually have an app that for Facebook users that talk to other Facebook users on a regular basis. It could actually be pretty convenient, but it really depends on how they implement it and the kind of integration that it has. If they did in fact do something like this, could you see yourself using it at all?
I mean, I guess I could, because I don't know every single person in my inner circle uses iPhones. I mean, it's a lot easier, of course, to FaceTime you or Terrell or a bunch of other friends that I have on my list. But like you say, what's going to happen with those PC users are, most people are using Skype to, video call people and things like that. But, with the WhatsApp, I think it'll be a lot better integration with Facebook if you're going to be Facebooking your friends that are like in different states or different things like that, and you don't exactly talk to them that much. But if you see them online and you can just hit a quick message and say, hey, what's going on? And, and it will work probably a lot better with that, because of course with Facebook being a social media company, they're going to work on that social side of this app and with this acquisition, and hopefully everything does work right, and they can give some of those PC users or Android users basically something to look forward to in their application and with their social media outlets to go further and expand past their actual apps, and as far as and past their actual status updates and things like that be really nice for the end users' results to be able to communicate with other users on the same platform.
Yeah, I definitely think it could be convenient. And like I said, like I was saying earlier, I mean, I love my FaceTime audio, and if I was a dedicated Facebook user, I think that I would definitely appreciate something like this. But at the end of the day, like with anything nowadays in technology, it really depends on your use case. It might be awesome for some people, and other people like me just wouldn't care about it at all. They would not even know it exists. So be sure to let us know what you guys think about this story down below. Could you see Facebook launching their own kind of a voice service, voice calling? Maybe what was the Facebook phone called? Do you remember?
I don't exactly remember. It was an older phone, and I think
Yeah.
it had buttons on the face. I know that. That's how old that phone was. Like you actually had to hit the Facebook button. It wasn't like a touchscreen phone or anything like that. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll probably we can look that up. But
yeah, I'm actually trying to right now, and I'm not finding it. It's like when it doesn't come up on Google, that's when you know it's just a failure.
Yeah, it was horrible. It actually had a Facebook button.
Yeah,
that was
it
down
did.
like in the bottom. I want to say left or right hand corner.
Yeah, it was definitely not great. I mean, it went from like $99 to 99 cents in like
Right.
less than 7 days. But regardless, be sure to let us know the name of that phone too, because I really can't think about it. Be sure to let us know in the comments what you think about a service like this from Facebook. On to our next story. This is something that kind of concerns me too, because personally I'm on Time Warner cable right now, and I love it. I don't have any kind of caps. My connection has been very, very solid for the year and a half that I've had it. Now Comcast is agreed to acquire Time Warner cable. Comcast is very infamous across the interwebs. A lot of people don't like the fact that they have bandwidth caps, and there's been some reliability issues that I've seen. And me personally, because I haven't had to deal with any of these, this is a big deal for me. This is something that I really don't want to see happen, but unfortunately, it looks like it is going to happen. Dante, do you have either of these ISPs, Comcast or Time Warner?
I don't actually use either of those. I'm using AT&T's service here in Kansas City, and I've had nothing but great things, but I know for a fact that there's going to be people upset about this particular merger, because I know people that have moved from Comcast to Time Warner or from Time Warner to Comcast. So this may cause a very, very, very big issue as far as, customer appreciation and things like that, because basically Comcast is like the AT&T of cable providers. They've been around a long time, and their products have been pretty expensive, just like AT&T. Usually when people have an AT&T service, it costs a little more than your competition, but the reliability and that name has been out there for so long, they keep a lot of customers because of that. And with them buying Time Warner Cable for $45.2 billion, which is a little more than they
With a B.
Yes, with a B, with a capital B, actually. And this is actually just slightly more than the $44 billion figure that was rumored late last night. But with the acquisition of this, it says, while both Time Warner and Comcast said that the deal is expected to close by the end of the year, there will be no doubt be fair competition questions. Will the two create a monopoly? Basically, as it stands, most cable markets only have one provider, which is a problem enough for most consumers. Both firms think that instead of it going to create a better environment for customers of Time Warner Cable and Comcast, and this combination creates a company that delivers the maximum value for our shareholders and enormous opportunities for our employees and superior experience for our customers. Time Warner Cable CEO and chairman Robert Marcus said basically that it begs the question to the pros and the cons of the customers. Are apparently the customers can expect to save on costs while also benefiting from faster internet speeds. I'm going to stop right there. That would be awesome, but still, everything being merged together, is this going to be a huge Comcast company, or will you actually see the difference between the merger? Like, what I'm trying to figure out is if if Time Warner Cable, is it just going to get the axe and it's just going to be the new Comcast? Just like the whole AT&T and Singular and things like that when they merged, and it was just AT&T. And that's some of the things that we have to see. But of course, if they're going to benefit from it by, like you have Time Warner Cable, if you're going to actually get better service and faster internet and upload speeds and things like that, and actually maybe get a little fraction of your monthly cost down, I think that would be a great idea.
I wouldn't mind.
Merger. And it doesn't even concern me since I don't have either or of the carriers. But it does beg the question, like when it says that some of these markets only have one actual cable provider, that may pose a problem, because what if some of these costs actually go up, and then you go into losing customers? But then the problem lays where if they're the only one that's around, you're probably going to stick with the only one that's around, whether you like it or not, or you're just not going to have cable, or maybe go to satellite, dish service, DirecTV, something like that. But this is going to be kind of crazy, because in a way, I do kind of feel like that this is a monopoly in a way, only because of the actual architecture of the cable company. And most of these cable companies now are going to more digital and things like that. But I mean, I know that Comcast, you can still throw a coax right in, so there's going to be definitely some problems here. And especially like you said, with the whole data capping and things like that, if that's something that Comcast have benefited from the past, I guarantee with this merger, they will have data caps and things into their architecture, because you got to realize how much money Time Warner Cable could have been making if they had data cap people. But people like yourself can upload, and you have super fast down speed and things like that. And Comcast is one of those people that's like, nah, we're just going to stop you right there. We're going to get you for every cent. If you want that, you need to get to this service or something like that. So we'll definitely see what happens in the future on this one. But how do you think you'll be affected by this?
See, right now in my area, there's really two choices. You can go with Time Warner, like I did, or you can go with Verizon. But the problem with Verizon is that they don't offer a speed greater than 3 down. 3 down and 1 up, and that is the best that they can do in my area. Verizon Fios is a thing, but it's not a thing in your EPA. They just don't have it here yet, and who knows if they ever will.
Wow.
So naturally, I went with Time Warner because I could have 30 down and 5 up. Now, something that I could see me be benefiting this is if when Comcast does acquire Time Warner, if they boost up the upload speed, because even right now, Time Warner's best plan is 50 down and 5 up. I'm at their second best plan, and I probably would have gone for their best plan if the upload speed changed. But the best upload speed possible in my area of the United States is 5 up. And it's disappointing because I don't need more download. I need more upload.
Speed,
I'm uploading this podcast. I'm uploading all my YouTube videos. I upload stuff for friends and family. I'm uploading probably more than I'm downloading, yet that speed is so much slower. And so that could be something that'd be great. If Comcast buys them and say, hey, we'll give you, instead of 30 and 5, we'll give you 25 and 20 or 25 and 25. I would absolutely love that. I would gladly lose 5 down to gain another 20 up. I mean, it would just be absolutely worth it. But the problem is, like I said, if they don't do that, or maybe they do that but they jack the prices up, I still am going to go with Time Warner no matter how much that they jack the price up, because the only other option I have is that 3 down connection, which that's not going to fly. That is not going to fly. I could probably get by with no less than 15. 30 is awesome. 30 is like a great sweet spot. I really love having that bandwidth, but 5 up could definitely do, I could definitely go with some more. 5 is doable. 5 is enough to stream some 720p video, maybe have a Skype call or 2 going on, and you're fine. 1 up on that Verizon plan, I can't do that. I would just die. That's not cool. So for me, I mean, Dontae, you're lucky in that you have AT&T that you can go with. Me personally, I don't have that. And another thing that I have a problem with in terms of Comcast is the bandwidth cap. Me personally, I'm the kind of person that stays up to date. I used Time Warner's web app to see how much data I've used, and ever since I got it, in a month I've used no less than about 400 gigabytes of data. And so most Time or Comcast caps that I've seen are at 250,
right?
Which is half. And so, I mean, I stream a lot of stuff. I'm always watching 1080p YouTube videos. I'm always watching Netflix 1080p videos. I'm always uploading videos. I'm always downloading stuff. And so I go through a lot of data. My router here probably hates me for how much stuff I send through it. But I really don't think I could get by on a 250 gigabyte cap. I just don't think, and I don't think I should have to in this day and age. A cap on my mobile phone I can understand. But on the main connection in which, I get my money from doing my online work, I really don't think I should have to deal with a cap. And right now I don't. And so if Comcast does end up buying Time Warner and I have to suffer a 250 gigabyte cap without having to pay some ridiculous fee, I'm really not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, if you're a huge geek that goes through a lot of stuff, then you know how awesome it is to not have to deal with the bandwidth cap. I don't have to worry about, like I do on my phone, okay, if I download this, then I'm going to have this much left, and there's this many days left in the month. So that means I can download about this much per day. I don't want to have to do that. I really don't want to have to do that. But Dontae, I mean, if you could put yourself in my shoes, would you agree? I mean, do you have another opinion about this?
Yeah, I have another opinion. I mean, if that actually happened, I'd kill myself tonight. Death, die to you quick. I'd do it quick. Honestly, because of the way you use your internet is one of those things that is very, very crucial to an IT guy and a guy that's basically a geek, a podcaster, YouTuber, whatever you want to call us. It is very, very crucial. And like you said, with the upspeed and things like that. And if they cut you pretty much and data cap you in half, there's nothing else left for you to do. You might as well just die tonight. It doesn't matter. We can do it live here on Tech Habit Weekly. But in all seriousness, that will become a big problem. And since you won't go to files, you're stuck. And there's really nothing you can do until you basically move. And honestly, that might be the next option. You're just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I can't do it.
It's cheaper for me to move than have to pay these fees.
Exactly. Because it's a huge part of what we do. I mean, we have to have our down speeds, our up speeds, but mostly the up speeds to get these videos and things to you guys out there. And honestly, if something like that happened to me, but luckily I do have a couple choices around here, I honestly would probably look into something probably a little more expensive, just because if I can get the speeds that I want, there's no data cap, it might be more beneficial for you that way. So sucks to be you, Bob. But but we'll see what happens. I mean, we don't know the final on this situation, so we'll see what actually happens. Maybe they'll honor your contract and say, "Hey, look, you already had this service under Time Warner Cable, and we're just going to basically roll you over. And basically, the only thing that's going to change is the name on your bill. It's going to be Comcast or something. So maybe that'll happen. And if so, then thumbs up to Comcast by honoring those contracts and different plans that people had with their programs. But if they just go around changing things, it'll be a problem.
I feel that what they would do is something very similar to how people are that have been grandfathered into an unlimited data plan on their phone. They're going to say, okay, yeah, we'll honor that. But once you hit that 250 gigs, we're going to throttle the crap out of you. I wouldn't be happy with that either. I mean, I'd be like, all right, I'm moving. Bye. I've had Time Warner for a year and a half. I mean, I've paid my bills on time every single month. I think I deserve to have my high-speed internet.
More than likely, that is what will happen. They'll, because it's a very smart business move to give people the illusion that you're still grandfathered in, and grandfathering in basically means throttling. They hit the cap and they're like, throw on the throttle, and then now you can only go so high. Exactly. Awesome car voice. But that was nice. But definitely, that's what will happen. A lot of people to this day, I kid you not, there's people I know that are on AT&T and they feel like they're still grandfathered in on old unlimited data contracts. I'm like, okay, let's run a speed test. And they're like, well, that's weird that yours gets a lot fast. Yeah, we both have the same phone too.
0.00007 down.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we're talking about there. But we'll see what happens with this once the final comes in. Good thing is you're dealing with that situation, so we can get hands-on real life results, and we'll see if you pulled your hair.
Keep it tuned on Tech Habit Weekly.
Exactly. So we'll find out.
If all of a sudden I don't have enough bandwidth to even be on a Skype call with you guys, you know why.
That's all right. We'll text in.
I'll send up smoke signals.
Yeah.
But yeah, be sure to let us know what you guys think about this. If you're on either one of these ISPs, how do you think it's going to affect you? Me, this is a very touchy subject. I'm really not happy about this. But I like the Monopoly. I like the board game. I don't like when it happens with my internet. So be sure to let us know what you guys think about this. Moving on to our second to last story here. This is about a bill being passed around to legalize phone unlocking. So, Dontae, what exactly is phone unlocking for people out there that just don't know what it is?
Phone unlocking, Bob, is actually the act of taking one carrier's phone, say a T-Mobile phone, and unlocking it to a different carrier such as AT&T. And basically, this is something I used to do all the time. Me and Terrell, we got into this a long time ago, back with the iPhone 2G and 3Gs, and even with the 4, and we were unlocking phones like crazy, and it was fun. I mean, you can definitely sell a device a lot higher, being able to basically take a choice over which carrier you want, and that's why you don't see, like with iPhones, there's no branding on the iPhone that says what carrier it's tied to, because these are world phones now. You're getting all the same phones when you actually get this. But here's the problem with unlocking. There's usually two different types of unlocks. There's usually an IMEI unlock as far as the iPhone, and what's called a SIM card unlock. Usually there was this thing called a Gevi tool that me and Terrell have actually used in the past, where you can put your SIM card in a SIM tray, special SIM tray that has a microchip on it that unlocks the phone through the microchip. It was really weird, but it actually worked. And another way is, back in the old times, which wasn't that long ago, me and Terrell used to actually use Ultra Snow to unlock, because I was one of those T-Mobile customers, and I always had like an iPhone 3G or 3GS, and I actually required to have jailbroke. I had to be jailbroken and unlocked to be able to use my phone. So good thing is, though, I had a very good success rate as far as staying unlocked, and I actually never have been locked out of a phone, even with updating and things. You just had to wait a lot longer to get your updates and things through Apple. But once I did, you wait for the exploit, whether it was tethered or untethered unlock. I mean, that was even back with like the Black Rain and Spirit jailbreak, and different things, and boot neuter and all those old ones. And I was actually being unlocked. My actually first iPhone was a 2G iPhone 4 gigabyte version that was actually unlocked on T-Mobile. And going forward from there, I just got to the point where I was like, well, if I'm going to be using iPhones anyway, I might as well get onto a regular carrier like AT&T. Yeah. But what this is saying, basically, it says the bill passed despite some resistance from Democrats, arguing that a last-minute addition excluding bulk unlocking weakened the bill, and the extra bit of legislation means that while individual consumers could freely unlock their own smartphones, it would still be illegal for a larger company to buy up used used phones, unlock them, and then resell the devices. And the reason why is because usually you get a higher selling rate. I was unlocking BlackBerry smartphones for a while, and I was making a killing. It was ridiculous, because people, they want to ship those internationally and things like that, so you don't have to worry about them working on Fido or some of those other Rogers and other companies like that, O2 and things like that are like over in the UK and things like that. You don't have to have those problems. You can basically buy a phone from the US that may cost cheaper than getting them in your own country, and you're already unlocked, so you can still use it. You just pop your SIM card in with whatever carrier that you already have, and you're good to go. And I've had a very high success rate. I've had no problems of a phone being returned or eBay seller saying, hey, this didn't work or anything. I've never got a call or email or anything about that. So basically, what they're trying to do is you're trying to take a product like an iPhone or a BlackBerry or what have you, and make sure that once it's bought through the store, that's basically where it stops. That's the whole not for resale type thing. And being able to unlock these phones and put them on different carriers actually generates more money for the person doing it. And especially if there's companies doing this in a mass quantity. Think of, if
how much money?
Exactly, like a cell phone repair place or something that says, hey, well, we'll give you X number amount of dollars for your phone, and then they just take it, unlock it, and resell it. I mean, and probably double their money. I've sold unlocked Samsung Galaxy S phones for like triple of what I paid for them on Craigslist and things like that. And it was ridiculous. And but people will pay for that. I mean, just to have that flexibility to say, you know what, I don't really like T-Mobile right now, I'm going to go to AT&T, or I'm in between contracts, I'll just say forget that contract, I still got the same phone I want to use, and I just need to pop another SIM card in it, and it's good to go. Now, luckily, I'm not a loser and using something like Straight Talk or Boost Mobile or something, or Straight Talk, or Straight Talk, or Straight Talk, or Straight Talk, because Straight Talk's horrible, and people that use Straight Talk should kill themselves tonight. Now, and just saying, and it's just one of those things where those different carriers are usually CDMA based, and they just piggyback off other cell phone towers, because there's agreement in between AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, and whoever to basically let each other basically bounce off each other's towers in certain areas where there's not good enough bandwidth and good enough cell phone signal strength for each company. So good thing is, with something like this, unlocking it basically takes that out because you're basically jumping on the same CDMA tower or the same bandwidth as a GSM company or something like that, and it'll work just fine because the chip tells it where to send out. So recognizing the bandwidth is right there in the phone. So I think this is good because a lot of people are always asking that. Terrell gets a lot of questions about does he still unlock phones, and they don't understand that the process is a lot harder now than it used to be. But I think this is great. I mean, I feel like you give people more control. You got to realize if I spent $650 on this phone out of the store and whatever, I should be able to do what I want to with my phone. And that's basically what we're doing. I mean, even with the whole jailbreaking scene, that used to be considered illegal, but it's my device. I'm like, what am I copywriting? I'm not infringing on anything. It's not like I have a hacked version of this iOS. It's iOS with a tweak on it.
With admin rights.
With admin rights, basically. That's all it is. It's the same thing as having like the I don't want to say, it's basically, since Android phones are Linux based, it's basically having like root permissions, when like you root your phone, sudo basically, when you root your phone and be able to access those other features and unlocking different things. And, it's the same thing. But I actually ran some Android unlocks, and they had these at the time called one-click unlocks, and those work really well with the Samsung Galaxy S. And it doubled my money, like, instantly, but it was all the know-how, but it makes sense. But yeah, honestly, doing it this way, I didn't see anything illegal to start with, but I can see where companies and the United States government were trying to keep people from, wait a minute, you're making money off these other people who basically just didn't know and things like that, and you're just reselling products that are already been bought. So, it's one of those things, but I think it's a good thing. I think people should be able to freely unlock and jailbreak their phones or whatever as much as they want. Do it at your discretion. It should just be a huge disclaimer. You do it at your own risk. If you mess things up, that's on your end. We don't cover you. You voided your warranty. You're good to go. I mean, that's all. And that's basically that's the way it should be. It's just like putting a new engine in your car. Well, you can't put a new engine inside of a Chevy or something and take it back to Chevy and say, hey, it didn't work, and they say, well, you got this Japanese engine in my car, so no, we're not going to take care of your warranty with your 100,000 mile powertrain warranty or anything. So I don't know, what do you think? I mean, I don't know if you're a big phone unlocker. I mean, you are on a CDMA company, but I don't know how you think about the whole unlocking scene.
I agree fully in that if you spend that much money on a phone, then you should be able to do whatever you want with it. I mean, I go out and buy a used car, and like I say, I could take the whole thing apart. I could put it up on bricks, do an engine swap, change every single part, just fine. I mean, the car company doesn't have a problem with that. So if I'm spending all this money on a phone to just want to use it on a different carrier, I really don't see the problem. I mean, that carrier is still getting my business. I mean, it's not like if there was like some kind of a thing where it's like, yeah, I'm putting up my own cell tower and I'm somehow stealing bandwidth from another carrier and using my own carrier, Roach Mobile, then okay, I could see that, because I mean, you're effectively taking money from someone. And
check out Tech Habit Weekly, episode 20 of Roach Mobile.
Exactly, but there's none of that going on. You're just saying that, okay, I want to use this phone. I don't want to use that cell tower. I want to use that one with a different name.
And they're losing money. You're not paying your bill. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's where I pretty much had my gripe. I'm like, wait a minute, I still have to pay for cell phone service.
Exactly.
So how does this affect you in any way of being illegal? It's up to me. And how many cell phones and, maybe not just cell phones, but tablets and laptops have been resold 1,000 times and things like that. It's like, well, come on now. It's just like a car. A used car has been sold 100 million times. There's probably one car could probably easily make $100,000 out of its life, and what probably was sold for $30,000 initial price, but kept going down, from 30 to 25, from 25 to 22, 22 to 16, 16 to 12, 12 to 8, 8 to 4, and by the end, that thing has made a killing because it can be resold. So if that's not illegal, how's unlocking your phone illegal? That's just me. But
it's honestly like the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same exactly. I think the United States government maybe just wants to have a better way of regulating it or being able to make some money off it, or you have to go through some sort of service where they actually get some sort of money in taxes or something, because that's a lot more money that you're putting in people's hands that's not passing through the government. But in a way, it is, because what do people do with their money? They spend it. So spending it on things in the United States puts it right back into the system. So, but we'll see. I don't know. I think it's good. I'm glad that they didn't find anything about it illegal. So
yeah, and I mean, I don't have the jailbreaking or the unlocking specifically experience that someone like yourself does. I know what it is. I know, like, I'd say 90% of all the apps that you mentioned earlier, I've at least heard of them. But me personally, I've been on Verizon for about 3.5 years now, and I've never had the need to unlock. I've never like made like a business out of it or anything. But I honestly really don't see the harm in it, and I'm really glad that, like I said, they didn't really find anything that was technically really illegal about it. So hopefully one day we'll be able to just sell our phones like we sell cars.
Exactly.
If I want to send this phone to someone in Europe, then I don't, we don't have to jump through hoops. I can just put it in a box, run like something on my computer, unlock it, and say, all right, put it in a box. And here you go. That's how it should be.
Or at least clear the ESN off it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but let us know what you guys think about the whole unlocking thing down below in the comments. Have you ever done it? It seems to be pretty easy on like the Samsung. They do have some of those like one-click utilities. Mm-hmm. It is getting a bit harder now, especially like for iPhones. Even just coming out with a jailbreak now is taking time. Yeah. So be sure to let us know what you guys think about that down below in the comments. And moving on to our last story, we have some more Android news. Google's Nexus 5 experience now available for other devices. So Dontae, really quick, just to give a recap, what's the difference between, say, a Nexus device and just a regular Android device?
Basically, the difference between the Nexus device and a regular Android device is the Nexus devices are going to give you the full Google experience. Basically, you have, say, if I get a Samsung Galaxy S through AT&T, well, it's going to have AT&T's bloatware and different things on it. Their
launcher,
TouchWiz, things like that. Well, Google is primarily a software company. So the actual phone that they have is going to be the fullest Google experience. There's no, I got to wait on this update and, and things like that. You can get the full-fledged Google experience, down to the core of Android, of what it's supposed to be. And honestly, when those phones come out, they usually make a lot of money and sell for a great amount of money, and the experience is always a lot better. I've heard from people going from one phone to another, but I know a guy who went from like an old like G2 to like the first Nexus phone, and he loved it and stayed ever since. And this is really nice because this particular one is going to be shipping out of the box with different software. It's going to have the Android 4.4 KitKat now, and install the Google launcher and put Google Now with just a swipe away on your home screen. And also lets users say, okay, Google, to activate the feature. But again, this only works when you are on the home screen, since it's currently limited to the Nexus and Google Play Edition. And with the hardware and other changes are relatively minor, but the Google Now launcher does bring some user handy interface additions like a new wallpaper chooser and larger app icons and more to more devices. Previously, these were only found on the Nexus 5, and that's just some of the small fine-tuned tweaks that we're talking about with having the full Google experience or a Google Play edition of like say the Moto X or something like that. And that's what we're talking about, because it's really weird that it's even like that, because there's not like, the full version of iOS, but yeah. It's really weird because once the carrier, whatever contracts they have with the carrier, for the carrier to put their own bloatware and things like that, I think that like takes away from the Android experience. And like I said before, Android is primarily Linux based, and so is iOS. It's a lot more Linux and Unix based. And when you actually get down into the system, it's pretty much a computer. You can do pretty much what you want to with it. Of course, with Android software being more open source, it seems like a more compatibility, more things to do with it. But something like this, to me, it kind of, stabs Android's, self in the back, because it's like, well, it runs like this and it runs like crap, but hey, this one phone can run it just right. And it doesn't make sense because, like I said, there isn't like a dumbed down version of iOS for another phone. And, but to get the full experience, you must get the Apple's, I don't know, iPhone edition of the iPhone 5, the App Store version of it or something. Yeah. And it's really, really weird. I mean, you got different companies like Samsung and HTC and Sony and things that all have Android devices, and they're not going to run the same as this particular version of the phone's OS, because this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it is out of the box. This is the way it always is. But then once it gets ported over to these different carriers and different devices, that's when it starts to get different and lose compatibility and things like that. But I think it's a good thing. I mean, anytime I hear a Nexus phone that's coming out, it's usually a big deal, and I'm sure it'll sell. But one thing is, usually the Nexus phones cost a little bit more than your typical Android phone, and some of them I remember were even coming out where like it was just like you had to buy the phone outright type thing. And I don't know if it's the same thing with this here. I don't know if you can get this on a carrier or anything like that. But if so, aren't you running into, you're going to kind of run into that same issue. But I don't know. I think it's a good thing. Good thing is good for Android. I mean, because at least they're keeping up with the architecture of what they're doing to give people the full Google experience. But to me, the whole idea in itself seems a little silly to me because I haven't heard of any sort of mobile OS that's even remotely like that. That's,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is dumbed down, but wait until the actual one comes. It's really weird because it almost sounds like everything else is in beta stages and this thing is ready to go.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Bob?
It's good. I mean, I agree with you in that. I think it's a good idea that they want to get that Google, that full on native Nexus experience out there. But I don't really know if it's going to be enough because things like day one updates still won't happen. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that the Google phones have. The phones that are right from Google and branded Nexus have that. Oh, these other phones from like Motorola and stuff don't. Is that they get the day one updates. And I don't know about you, but I like being up to date. I mean, this is like honestly the first update that I haven't installed on day one is that this 7.0.6 that just came out. This is the first one I haven't installed day one in quite a while, and honestly, that's just because I've been really busy with school. But I do really like being up to date. I've always update my computer operating system the day it comes out, and so I think that's a huge thing that would, if I was an Android user, I would definitely want to go on a Nexus device. I think that would be the primary reason. But do you think that overall, this is enough to give the full Android or like the full Nexus experience to people that say have like a Galaxy S4 besides the day one updates?
That's kind of tough to say. I mean, honestly, your typical Android user probably won't really notice a huge difference in between the two, only because it's still Android. It's not like it's just a complete mask over and something different. The launcher I think will be different and being able to say okay Google and things like that. Those will be good, but enough to make it that big of a switch, I don't think there's enough for that. You'd have to honestly be a Nexus user that probably were in between Nexus phones and then say, hey, the new Nexus is out and I'm ready to go, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because, the Nexus phone don't exactly come out like Samsung Galaxy S's or anything. It usually takes a while, to come out. So I think it'd be great for those people that are really, really Nexus enthusiasts. But in between that, I think the audience is going to be pretty limited.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's pretty much all I think I have to say on the matter. I mean, I just don't use Android enough to know, down to the root, the absolute 100% complete list of differences between something like a Nexus and something like a Galaxy S4. I know the basics, but I mean, until I would really use both, maybe like a week on one, a week on the other, it's hard to say whether this would be enough to give, like a full Nexus experience on non-Nexus devices. But I guess in my opinion, it's kind of like, I guess sort of kind of in a way, not 100%, but it's kind of like having OS X on PC hardware. You have most of the Apple experience, but you still have to go through the hassle of installing it and stuff, and it's not quite the same. But at the end of the day, I think it's enough of an experience that you could enjoy using it.
Right, especially nowadays too. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's a lot better than it used to be a long time ago. And honestly, I mean, this is even back with my old Sandy Bridge Hackintosh. I felt like I had a legit Mac and I was running everything just fine. I'm basically doing the same exact things I'm doing then as I'm doing now. Basically, I have all my games on Windows that I actually play. Same thing with the Hackintosh. I had games on the Windows side, but was using Mac as a primary OS, and I'm still doing it right here with a 12-core Mac Pro. So I think it's cool.
Yep, my Hackintosh feels exactly like a Mac Pro. The only difference is that when you hit the power button, you see some BIOS stuff. Yeah, that's the only difference. That's it. But be sure to let us know what you guys think about this. I guess this launcher that Google announced for non-Nexus devices to try to give that Nexus experience. Do you think it's a flop? Do you think it's a good idea, bad idea? Do you think Miley Cyrus could have come up with something better than this? Whatever it is, be sure to let us know down below in the comments. And yeah, that's saying a lot. Wow. But now we've reached the end of our show, and well, I guess we're at like that 95% mark. Now is the actual sweetest part of the show, in which we give you guys some tech treats, which are really nice and sweet for you. Give you guys some cavities at the end of the week here. So, Dante, go ahead and give us your tech treat.
Well, my tech treat, Bob, is actually going to be the Flying Cyrus Wrecking Ball app. You guys all knew it was coming. I know you guys knew it was coming. You guys probably saw it in the App Store and go, you got to be kidding me. This thing's going to be in Tech Habit Weekly. And here it is. Basically, it's just like Flappy Bird, if people have been playing that. And basically, we've got Miley Cyrus and all her Miley Cyrus goodness doing her thing, and it's basically just like Flappy Bird. It's even got a flappy tongue. So it's pretty funny. I think it's pretty comical that she's actually, it's a flapping or flying head of her going through wrecking balls and hammers. And I think it's weird because I should get extra points for licking the hammer like she does in the video. Exactly, Bob. See, you like it too. So secretly, you've already had this app. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
But this app is actually in the App Store, and I actually heard some reports that they were actually pulling this app.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I mean, I actually do have a link that it's still my link through iTunes preview, but I'm not sure if the app is still currently available. But they actually just went through an update because she looked a lot different
she did,
with the last update. But it's pretty cool. You guys already know the Flappy Bird app. If you guys like Flappy Bird, then you'll like this. Now there are some bugs with this thing. I mean, it's not as fluid as Flappy Bird.
No, and the ads are very intrusive.
Exactly, but basically you're just avoiding obstacles and getting medals and things like that, just like Flappy Birds. And this comes from Tallow Games. This is Miley Cyrus, Flying Cyrus Wrecking Ball app. Get in App Store and in Google Play Store.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to admit this, but I've actually put, I'll call it a significant amount of time into this game, and honestly, it is definitely harder than Flappy Bird is. It's not as fluid, even on Apple's latest hardware. It's really not that fluid. The ads really do get in the way, and it's very annoying because most people, when you play the game, you're tapping like the lower part of the screen to so your fingers out of the way. That's where they put the ad too. So you're just playing, and all of a sudden you tap, and an ad comes up. It's like, come on. So I mean, it's definitely more, I guess, of like a trolley kind of a game. Like it's meant to like I think at its core, Flappy Bird was actually meant to be a game that it just turned out to be kind of frustrating. This is a game that's obviously meant to make fun of Miley Cyrus and to like really tick you off. Like it's honestly not quite as fluid as something like Flappy Bird, but it's designed that way. But if it is still available, definitely download it. It's free, so there's really no reason not to. And if you're at all a fan of Tech Habit Weekly, you have no excuse to not give it a try.
At least once.
Exactly. It's something you just gotta do. You just absolutely have to do it. So very good tech treat, sir. I do have that one. And so my tech treat is also a game. Now, my game isn't quite as tongue influenced. It's not quite as Miley Cyrus influenced, but it's still a very fun game regardless. My tech treat of the week here is Threes. I actually have it pulled up on both my devices right here. And if you've never played this game, what it is it's kind of like a puzzle game / kind of a math game. So what you have to do here is you're actually presented with these numbers here, and you have to basically get the biggest number that you can. And how you do that is you combine the tiles. So as you can see on the screen here, the red ones are 2s, the blue ones are 1s, and the white are 3s. Now I'm going to go ahead and swipe this way. Now as you can see, that 2 and that 1 makes a 3. Now I can only combine 3s with other 3s. So in order to make a 6, I'll swipe up to line those up and swipe that way. I think, yeah, now that got it. So as you can see, it went to a 6, and then the 2 6s combined and made a 12. Now I can only combine that 12 with other 12s. So like right now here, I would swipe up, try to get a 6 there, and then so then I could try to make a 6 here. And so basically you just have to keep doing that until eventually the board fills up and you just have no more moves. Nice. I've actually had a pretty sweet round this last time on my iPad, which is why I brought this up. But I actually managed to get a tile all the way up to 192, which it took some time. And I actually ended up getting a score of 3,324. So if you haven't played this game, I mean, that's I think a decent score. But I mean, I have some pretty good numbers there. I mean, there's the 192, there's a 96, 48, some 12s, and so it definitely takes some effort. It definitely takes some logic, and it's a really fun game. And what's really great about it is that I think right now it's on sale for I think $1.99. So it does cost some money, but there's no ads in it at all. It's a really fluid app. There's some nice music that plays, and these tiles, it's kind of hard to see, but there's like little faces on the bottom. And so, like, if you try to, like, make a move that you can't make, they'll be like, no. Like, in all these random pitched voices. And it's a really fun game that's not intrusive at all. It requires a little bit of brain power, but it's one of those games that it's tricky but not frustrating. So that's something that I like. And I think normally it's $2.99, but I think right now it's $1.99. So definitely get it now if you can. But it's definitely, I've put some time into this, a considerable amount of time, just when I have some downtime, and I absolutely love it. So that's Threes. Actually, I'm not sure off the top of my head who makes it, but I bet it'll come right up if you search it in the App Store. It's actually a pretty popular app right now, and so far it has great reviews, and I also give it a great review.
Cool.
So that's it for Tech Habit Weekly, episode 19. Thank you guys very much for watching. We hope to do this show live next week. We did have some technical difficulties this show. We do apologize for that. But hopefully for episode 20, or I forget what it is in German. I'm not even going to try. Episode 20 of Tech Habit Weekly. Dante, Casey, Nightmare, thank you very much for joining me. Go ahead and let people know where they can find you online.
Well, as you guys know, you guys can find me at oneplaceforapple.com and also at twitter.com at KCNightmare, and also on my YouTube channel, which will have a link within the description below for everybody to check out. I'm going to be having unboxings and different how-to, some jailbroken tweaks and things like that in there to give all you guys some good tech experience and some things that you guys can look forward to. So, and everybody knows where you can find Bob to like and subscribe to this channel, and we're going to be good to go. So
Absolutely. So be sure to check out Dante's channel. He actually just posted a video of him upgrading his Mac Pro from an 8-core all the way up to a 12-core 2010 Mac Pro. So be sure to check that out. Me personally, at CPKid on Twitter, roachtechnology.com. And for those of you that have a Hackintosh out there, and if you haven't done so already, I do have a video on details on how to update to 10.9.2, whether it's safe or not, etc. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to give the video a like for Mr. Chicken here, because if you like the video, he will lay an egg for you. So there's that. So be sure to join us next week for episode 20, and we'll see you guys then.